How to master the Cap 240 mode on Sorare. Hi guys, welcome back to another video. This one we're going to be looking at the Cap 240 on my strategies and my opinions on how to play this sort of mode. During the video I'll take you through some players. I've got a couple of goalkeepers, a few defenders and forwards, all under the overall cost of £70 in the limited category. So it's just my starting point in the Challenger region. If you don't know what Cap 240 mode is and how it works, I'll take you through that now. So as you can see on the screen, this is a Cap 240 Limited, and you're only allowed limited cards in this category. And that's the same for rare, super rares at the moment in time as well. You need 5 of that scarcity to play in this competition. As you can see, it's Cap 240, so the last 15 games of a player need to add up to 240 for the 5 players, so the average about 48. If you're not quite sure what that means, if we just take a look into Salah, who had a good season with Liverpool, his last 15 scores on the average is 64. And I've taken and show you Jamie Vardy, who didn't have an amazing season in a relegation team. His last 50 was much lower on 37. Now in this competition you can win cards, as you can see on the screen. So you can win a tier 3 rare and a star limited, which is really good in this competition. But the main thing we're focusing on here is beating the game and not other managers. So as you can see, you get $5 for beating the score of 250. At this moment in time, that is what Sorare are saying. Now, in the recent roadmap update, which I'll link in the description, that is now changing to 300 points. However, don't worry, don't sit there and think, hang on, that's an extra 50 points I need to gain. At this moment in time, there's no XP added, so there's no captain bonus, there's no collection bonus, no fitness bonus at this moment in time. So whatever your player scores, so if he scores a 40 on a game week, he'll score a 40. However, on the new cap mode, if your player scores a 40 and gets a 10% collection bonus or fitness bonus, you'll obviously then score 44. Another captain bonus as well, which I believe is 20%. So, it's all swings around about, to be honest. And some people say the cap mode might be easier, some people will be harder. But I know Sorare are going to review that each game week. But at the moment in time, it's 250 points need to hit that $5 or €5 at this moment in time. I said that will be changing, I believe, in September. So what's my approach on the Cap 240 modes? So just before we get into that, for those that don't know me, I've been on Sorare for just over 3 years now. Now I play the super rare, rare and limited Cap 240 modes. Now I'm no expert in hitting these thresholds every single game week. By all means, these are just my views and my opinions how to kind of move forward in these Cap 240 and which players to buy. I'll talk through that in a moment in time. But I believe there is 2 main approaches to the cap mode. So the first approach would be the decisive scores. So that's getting forwards and midfielders in general to get those decisives. So those assists, those goals. They can come from penalties, a set piece taker, for example. That's lining up with a goalkeeper, a defender, then possibly either 2 midfielders or most likely 2 forwards. Now this is at the higher upper end of this, so it's having defenders that are capable of getting those good AA scores, those 10 to 15 scores to push up to 50 points, and then 1 solid midfielder with a good AA score again, and then the other 2 players that are decisive capable. So as I mentioned before, a penalty taker, a corner kick taker. Now I know these are more higher budget players, but there are players out there that do take set pieces under £10 in the limited category. So there's definitely players out on that market. And the other strategy is looking at AA scores and having just 1 decisive forward. So I sometimes do this as well, having 3 steady eddies in the outfield spots. So again, having a goalkeeper, maybe having 2 defenders that can score the 50s, midfield that can score the 50s as well. Because again, we are looking for that cap 250 points at the moment in time. So each player will need to score roughly about 50 points. Now, if you can get a forward with just a decisives and gets a 60, 70 points, and one of your defenders or midfielders has a bad game, it's kind of making up for that. But your keeper's more important in this strategy, in my opinion. But overall, you probably do need 2 decisives from those 5 players. That'd be your goalkeeper and your forward, and with these budget sort of players, your goalkeepers around about £10-15 on this strategy that I'm looking at the moment in time. They aren't going to keep clean sheets every week. looking between 35 and 45 points for these goalkeepers. So ideally, in my opinion, probably the best going for the two forward options. Everyone's different. Have had success with both strategies, having two defenders that are really solid A scores, having capable, decisive forward, and that's sometimes one of the thresholds. And again, I've had two forwards with one defender and one midfielder. That's one of the thresholds as well. That can go the other way, of course. The forwards can have a bad game and don't score, and lose a threshold completely. That's a risk I was willing to take, with those forwards. And also with that, you could potentially win those card rewards as well, beating other managers on the leaderboard. So I've pulled out 15 players from the Challenger region. As you can see, their collective price adds up to about £75 in the limited category, and that includes two goalkeepers as well. So if you've got £75 spend, which I will have in this example, you might have £100, you might have £50 to take away a couple of players. This will give you the Cap 240 mode and then an extra team as well into All-Star or the Challenger region. Now, again, another little tip for the cap modes is you probably need more than 5 players. Well, you definitely need more than 5 players, just because if 1 week your players fall under the cap 240 mode and the last 15s do accumulate to under cap 240, and you win the threshold the week after because your goalkeeper's kept a clean sheet, your forward's got a goal, and you've had some great players play. Obviously, those last 15 averages will increase. So the week after, you can't play the cap 240 mode because your players are actually too good to play the cap mode, if that makes sense. It's always good to have a few average players, a few really decent players, and try and buy in the market when players are bad on form or coming back from an injury as well and haven't played in those last 15 games. But ideally, to set yourself off, you want around having about 10, between 10 and 15 players, just so you can swap and change those players out. Again, with the strategy I'm doing today, I'm using two goalkeepers. So it gives you the option to play in All-Star Limited or Cap 270 Limited or even Challenger, as well as playing the Cap 240. As I mentioned before, I'll be delving into each different position and some different players. I won't jump into every single player. I might jump into, one or two for each position. With these players as well, outfield players will be no more than £10, but as you can see with the goalkeepers, obviously a bit more expensive, but I've tried to put them under the £15 region if I can. I'm sure you can pick this goalkeeper up in the last 3-day average for under £15. So we're not going to get superstars in here, but a little tip for goalkeepers is try to find a league that doesn't concede many goals, that don't have many goals. So for example, in Challenger, I find it very difficult to find a league that has a very low amount of goals. If you do have any recommendations, let me know in the comments below. If I was doing this video for Champion Europe, I'd recommend looking into Spain. I don't think there's a lot of goals in Spain unless they're playing the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona. If you're looking at the Germany, for example, in the Champ, avoid at all cost. But this is a Challenger sort of region video. As you can see from the goalkeeper, you're looking at someone that can pick up AA points. Clean sheets, of course, do matter, but in this sort of price range, you're not going to expect a clean sheet every other game. You're looking for ideally a goalkeeper that can pick up AA points and also concede less than 3 goals as low as possible, if that makes sense. So for an average goalkeeper, someone that can get you 40 to 45 points per game and keep those clean sheets every so often as well. So moving on to defenders, as I mentioned before, you want these defenders to be very steady Eddie, getting those AA scores, capable of some decisives as well, but mainly these defenders are looking for between 10 and 15 AA, and the better they can keep that that range of 45 and 55, the better the players are. Again, I've picked out 5 defenders. I'm going to jump into 3 of them. The first one we're looking at is Paul McGinn. He's very cheap. He is 32 years old, but just over £1 for his limited card. Now this, in my example, is a great defender for the cap mode. As you can see, he hits around the 50 mark, which is brilliant. He sometimes can peak and get the high 50s. His last 15 average is 54, so we are looking at plays roughly on the 40 average sort of zone. And keep in mind your goalkeeper might be much lower than that, so you might have some leeway in some positions. That's a very cheap example in the Scottish division. A lower 15 average, we've got Christian Burgess, who plays in the Jupiler Pro League. And again, another great example of a cap mode player, in my opinion, He can get those peaks, so towards the beginning of the season, he's playing really well and get those high peak scores. But he's very consistent in scoring. There's a few low kind of scores in here, and they might be when he's been substituted or had a really bad game. But again, another perfect player in my opinion for the cap modes at just under £5. A little shout to this guy. I have no idea who this player is, to be completely honest with you, completely transparent. I was doing a lot of research and this guy popped up. The reason why I put him in this sort of category and this sort of lineups, these teams, is he's under £1. And just looking at his scores, he's not a too bad of a player. So, he might be one to put in there. He's got a very low L15 score. And it's good to have these sort of players that are not amazing. But as you can see, he's quite consistent. He can get peaks, get the high 40s, which isn't always too bad, and hit the 50s. He's only 25 years old. Again, do your own research on all these players, but especially this one as well. But I just thought I'd throw him in. He's under £1. And it's worth having these sort of players just so you can rotate and try and beat the cap each game week. I pulled out 5 midfielders. I'll be jumping into 3 of these, so feel free to pause the video and take a screenshot if you wish. Jumping into Joel Newell, who is the Hibs midfielder. Now the reason why I've chose this player is because he's on set pieces, and that is one of the main reasons why. And of course he gets decent scores as well. So he doesn't break the bank in terms of the last 15 scores. Got 51, and sometimes you don't want players hitting hundreds every game because they're going to be impossible to include in the cap mode. So this sort of player can hit the 40s, 50s averages, and of course, as you can see, the lighter greens 70 points to high 60s. It roughly about under £3 for a set piece taker. He's definitely one I would include on this list. Marco Ara, so big shout out to my Twitch stream. I'm not quite sure who it was, but big shout out to them. If you won't follow me on Twitch, make sure you do so at JackPSorare. I'll leave a link in the description below. I recommended this player. He's a very good cap player. He takes penalties and a few set pieces. Now, he's not an amazing scorer on Sorare. I think that 9 he got when he got a red card, yeah, potentially. But again, low 40s and a penalty taker. So if you're looking at a strategy 2, looking at a midfielder capable of a decisive, Marco Ara could be great. And you can probably pick him up for just under £2, which is brilliant in my opinion. And last but not least, we have Baz. Again, I don't know much about this player, if I'm going to be completely transparent. Do your own research. Again, this is just a very cheap player to throw in if you need an L15 of under, 42 for example. Again, he's very cheap, under £2. Again, maybe not this player, but a sort of player you can pick up for very cheap and with a low L15 is vital. You'll be surprised, when you come to do your Cap 240 teams and your 5 players in your whole squad, you can't fit a team of 5 in because your L15 is too high. It's really good to have players with low L15s that are consistent, as you can see, 100% last 15 games. You want certain starters or certain players that will play every single game at some point and featuring to get you those 35 points, for example, during the game week. So the last position are forwards. So I picked out 4 forwards in the Challenger region. Now, as you can see, they do have slightly higher L15s than the other players we've seen today. So these are top forwards. Again, as I mentioned throughout the video, you want to get some very cheap forwards as well that aren't will beaters. They might score, 1 in 3 games, 1 in 4 games, but the last 15 might be, below 45, for example. But these are top end, last 15 players that would be really good for the cap mode. So I will delve in very quickly on the score, so I won't spend much time, but hopefully you can see some sort of pattern of why I've chose these players. Again, they aren't will beaters, but as you can see by goal contributions, they're getting a goal or an assist every other game, more or less. So for under £10, these forwards are great for a cap mode option. So just to summarise, you do need more than 5 players in my opinion. Ideally, you want between 10 and 15 players, and if you can get a second goalkeeper, 2 reasons. One, you can play another division, like the Cap 270 or the All-Star Limited, and it gives you that flexibility as well. If your goalkeeper has a really good, really high last 15 score and the other keeper doesn't, you're more flexible in your Cap 240 team on your outfield players too. Just to highlight my point, do your own research on all these players I've picked today. Feel free to take the player, have a look a bit more detail to see if they would fit your cap modes. This is literally just half an hour of my own research on Sorare data scouting for this video. And if you have enjoyed the video and want to see something similar for the champ region, let me know in the comments below. But as always, drop me a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one.